The projector screen flickered to life, and there it was. My algorithm, my 3 weeks of hell, my sleepless nights turned into code, being presented by the man I trusted most. Ethan's voice filled the conference room with confidence I had helped him build, explaining concepts I had poured my soul into discovering. And this breakthrough, he said, clicking to the slide that had taken me 14 failed attempts to perfect, will revolutionize how we process data across all our platforms. I sat in the back row, my hands trembling, as I watched 25 executives lean forward, hanging on every word that should have been coming from my mouth. The CEO, Mr. Harrison, nodded approvingly, scribbling notes that would determine our company's future and, apparently, Ethan's promotion. "Brilliant work, Ethan," Harrison said, his voice carrying across the room like a death sentence to my career. "This innovation could put us years ahead of our competitors." That's when Ethan's eyes found mine across the room. He had the audacity, the absolute audacity, to wink at me. Like this was all some twisted joke we were sharing. Like stealing 3 months of my life's work was just another Tuesday for him. But here's what none of them knew. What I couldn't have possibly known 3 months ago when this exact scene played out the first time. I had died that night. Died in a car accident on Highway 101, my Honda Civic crushed between 2 semi-trucks after I'd worked 18 hours straight trying to recover from Ethan's betrayal. The last thing I remembered was the rain on my windshield and the crushing realization that he had won. Then I woke up, not in a hospital, not in some afterlife. I woke up in my apartment, in my bed, on a Tuesday morning, exactly 90 days before my death. The same coffee mug I'd forgotten to wash was still sitting in my sink. The same presentation notes were scattered across my desk. Everything was exactly as it had been, except for one crucial difference. I remembered everything. I remembered Ethan's betrayal. I remembered watching him get promoted while I got fired for failing to meet project deadlines. I remembered the look of disappointment in my parents' eyes when I had to move back home. I remembered dying alone on that rainy highway, knowing I'd never gotten justice. But this time was different. The first week after my rebirth, I played it exactly the same. I smiled at Ethan's jokes, brought him coffee when he looked tired, even helped him debug his code when he was struggling. But inside, I was planning. This time, I knew his every move before he made it. "Jenny?" I had called my sister that first Tuesday, my voice carefully casual. "I need to ask you something about Ethan." The pause on the other end of the line was telling. "What about him?" "You're dating him, aren't you?" Another pause, longer this time. In my previous life, I had never known about their relationship until it was too late. "How did you—" "I'm not stupid, Jenny. The way he talks about you, the way you both disappear at the same time during office parties." I took a breath, preparing for the conversation that could either save me or destroy me. "I need your help." "With what?" "With destroying him." I could hear her sharp intake of breath. "What are you talking about?" "He's going to steal my presentation, Jenny. The algorithm I've been working on. He's going to take credit for it and ruin my career. Unless we stop him first." "That's crazy. Ethan wouldn't what? Wouldn't manipulate people, wouldn't lie to get ahead. Come on, Jenny. You've been dating him for 6 months. You know what he's capable of." The silence stretched between us. Finally, she spoke, her voice small and uncertain. "How do you know he's going to steal your presentation?" I couldn't tell her the truth, that I'd lived through this nightmare already. So I lied. Because I've been watching him. I've seen how he operates. And I've seen the way he looks at my work. "What do you want me to do?" "I want you to help me gather evidence. Document everything he does, everything he says. I want to build a case so solid that when he tries to destroy me, I'll be ready to destroy him first." That conversation changed everything. Over the next 3 months, Jenny became my secret weapon. She attended Ethan's strategy meetings and recorded them. She photographed documents on his desk. She even managed to get copies of emails he sent planning his various schemes. Meanwhile, I played the perfect victim. I worked late nights, poured my heart into the presentation, acted surprised when Ethan showed interest in my project. I let him think he was manipulating me, all while building an arsenal that would obliterate him. The night before the presentation, I sat in my apartment staring at the folder full of evidence Jenny and I had compiled. 3 months of documentation, screenshots of stolen code, recordings of him admitting to plagiarism, photos of him accessing my computer without permission, even evidence of harassment complaints against him that had been mysteriously buried by his previous supervisor. I had enough to destroy him completely. But as I sat there, looking at the proof of his crimes, I realized something that chilled me to the bone. This wasn't just about the presentation. In my previous life, I had been so focused on that one betrayal that I'd missed the bigger picture. Ethan wasn't just a thief, he was a predator. The harassment complaints weren't isolated incidents. The stolen ideas weren't just mine. This man had been systematically destroying careers for years, and somehow he'd managed to make everyone look the other way. My phone buzzed, a text from Jenny. He just left my apartment. He's planning something for tomorrow that he won't tell me about, something big. I stared at the message, my heart racing. What else was he planning? What other shoe was about to drop? The next morning, the morning that would have been my last day of employment in my previous life, I walked into that conference room with my head held high. I watched Ethan set up his laptop, connecting it to the projector with the confidence of a man who thought he'd already won. But this time, I was ready. As he began presenting my work, I sat calmly in the back row, my phone in my hand, my finger hovering over the send button of an email that would change everything. The email contained every piece of evidence Jenny and I had gathered, formatted into a comprehensive exposé that would be impossible to ignore or dismiss. The timing had to be perfect. I needed him to dig his grave completely before I buried him in it. This breakthrough represents months of innovative thinking, Ethan said, his voice filled with the kind of passion that only comes from stealing someone else's dreams. Mr. Harrison leaned forward. How did you develop this approach, Ethan? It's unlike anything we've seen before. That was my cue. As Ethan launched into his explanation, my explanation, of the algorithm's development process, I pressed send. Within seconds, every phone and tablet in that room buzzed simultaneously. I watched as confused faces turned to shocked expressions, then to looks of absolute disgust as they read through the evidence I'd compiled. Mr. Harrison's face went white as he scrolled through the documentation. What the hell is this? Ethan was still talking, oblivious to the digital bomb that had just exploded around him. And that's when I realized we could optimize the processing speed by... Ethan? Harrison's voice cut through the presentation like a blade. That's when Ethan finally noticed that no one was looking at the projector anymore. Every pair of eyes in the room was staring at their devices, reading about his crimes in real time. What's going on? He asked, his confident facade beginning to crack. You tell me, Harrison said, turning his tablet around to show Ethan the screen. Because according to this email, you've been stealing intellectual property for the past 3 years. And that presentation you're giving right now? It belongs to someone else. I watched the colour drain from Ethan's face as the full weight of his situation hit him. This was the moment I'd died for in my previous life. The moment I'd been robbed of. The moment of justice I'd never gotten to see. But as satisfying as it was to watch him squirm, I knew this was just the beginning. Because Jenny had texted me something else that morning, something that made my blood run cold. He's been planning this for longer than we thought. There's something else, something bigger. Meet me after the presentation. We need to talk. As security moved toward Ethan, as his career crumbled around him in real time, I realised that my second chance at life had given me more than just the opportunity for revenge. It had shown me that some monsters hide in plain sight for years before anyone notices the bodies. The coffee shop was nearly empty when Jenny slid into the booth across from me, her hands shaking as she placed a manila folder on the table between us. Her usual confident demeanour was gone, replaced by something I'd never seen before: fear. "You have no idea what we've unleashed," she whispered, glancing around nervously before pushing the folder toward me. "What happened in that conference room today? That was just the tip of the iceberg." I opened the folder and my blood turned to ice. Inside were photos, documents, and printouts that painted the picture so horrifying I almost couldn't process it. Bank statements showing payments to Ethan from competitor companies. Screenshots of him selling our proprietary code to rivals. Worse yet, there were photos of him meeting with executives from Morrison Tech, our biggest competitor, in what looked like very friendly conversations. "He's been selling company secrets for 2 years," Jenny said, her voice barely audible. "Not just your work, everyone's work, every major project, every breakthrough, every strategic plan. He's been feeding it all to Morrison Tech." My hands trembled as I flipped through the evidence. "How did you get all this?" "I've been suspicious for months. The expensive gifts he couldn't afford, the mysterious meetings, the way he always seemed to know things before they were announced." She leaned forward, her eyes wide with panic. "Wait, but there's more. Something that changes everything." She pulled out her phone and showed me a text message thread. My heart stopped when I saw the contact name. Dad. "Your father?" I asked, confused. "No," she said, her voice breaking. "His father. Ethan's been texting someone he calls Dad, but his real father died when we were kids. I thought maybe it was a stepfather or something, but look at this." She scrolled to the most recent messages and I felt the world tilt beneath me on Dad. "Is the girl getting suspicious?" "Ethan." "Jenny? No, she's clueless, but her sister is becoming a problem." "Dad, handle it. We can't afford exposure now." "Ethan. The presentation theft worked perfectly. She'll be out of the company by next week." "Dad. Good. Phase 2 can begin." "Phase 2? I looked up at Jenny, my mind racing. "What the hell is Phase 2? "I don't know, but there's more." She swiped to another conversation. "Look at this one from last month." "Dad, the Morrison merger is scheduled for next quarter. Make sure you're positioned correctly." "Ethan. Already working on it. My handler there confirms the acquisition will go through." "Dad, excellent. Once we control both companies, we can eliminate the competition entirely." The coffee cup slipped from my numb fingers, shattering on the floor. The few other customers turned to look, but I barely noticed. My mind was reeling, trying to process what I was reading. "Morrison Tech isn't trying to compete with us," I whispered. "They're planning to acquire us. And Ethan, he's not just stealing for money, he's part of some larger conspiracy." Jenny nodded miserably. "It gets worse. I found out who Dad really is." She showed me another photo on her phone, a screenshot from a Morrison Tech executive page. There, smiling in a corporate headshot, was a man who looked exactly like an older version of Ethan. "Marcus Morrison," she read from the caption. "Chief Executive Officer, Morrison Technologies. Founded the company in 1987 after a successful career in corporate espionage." "Corporate espionage," I repeated, the words tasting bitter in my mouth. "So Ethan isn't just a thief, he's a spy." "And I've been dating him for 8 months, Jenny said, tears streaming down her face. "I've been feeding information to the enemy without even knowing it. Every family dinner where I mentioned your projects, every casual conversation about work, I've been helping them destroy our company." I reached across the table and grabbed her hand. "Hey, This isn't your fault. You didn't know. But that's not the worst part, she continued, her voice breaking. Remember how I told you he was planning something big? I found out what it is. She pulled out one final document, a printed email that made my stomach drop. From marcus.morrison@morrisontech.com to ethan.morrison@tempmail.com. Subject: Final Phase Authorization. Son. The board has approved final phase operations. Proceed with the elimination protocol. The target is now considered a critical threat to our timeline. Make it look accidental. We can't afford another investigation like the one in Seattle. Timeline: this weekend. Use the same method as before. Clean up any loose ends, including the sister if necessary. Proud of your work, Mim Morrison. The world seemed to stop spinning. I read the email 3 times before the full horror of it sank in. Elimination protocol, I whispered. They're planning to kill me. And me, Jenny added, her face pale. I'm the loose end. My mind flashed back to my previous life. The car accident that had killed me. The rain, the 2 semi-trucks, the way it had seemed almost choreographed. Had that been an accident at all? Jenny, I said slowly, pieces clicking into place. In my previous, I've been having these dreams about dying in a car accident. What if it wasn't an accident? She stared at me, confusion and terror warring in her eyes. What are you talking about? Previous what? I couldn't tell her the truth about my rebirth, but I could share my suspicions. What if Ethan has killed before? What if that's what this same method as before means? Jenny's phone buzzed with a text message. We both looked at the screen, and my blood turned to ice. Ethan. Hey baby, want to go for a drive this weekend? I know this beautiful scenic route up in the mountains. Just the 2 of us. The mountains, Jenny whispered. The roads up there are dangerous. Lots of curves, steep drops. Lots of places where accidents happen, I finished. Another text appeared. Ethan. Actually, why don't you invite your sister? It's been too long since we all hung out together. I felt like I was going to be sick. He's planning to kill us both this weekend. Jenny was hyperventilating now. What do? We can't go to the police. Who would believe us? And even if they did, Marcus Morrison has connections everywhere. Corporate espionage requires corruption at every level. I sat back in the booth, my mind racing through possibilities. Then, slowly, an idea began to form. A dangerous, crazy idea that might be our only chance at survival. What if we don't run? I said finally. What? What if we give them exactly what they want? What if we go on that drive? Jenny looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Are you insane? They want to kill us. In my previous life, in my dreams, I was alone when I died. I was isolated with no backup, no evidence, no way to fight back. I leaned forward, excitement building despite the danger. But this time, we know what's coming. We can prepare. Prepare how? I pulled out my phone and started typing. We're going to turn the tables. We're going to make Ethan think he's in control, but really, we're going to be the ones setting the trap. That's suicide. No, I said, sending the message I'd just typed. That's justice, and I know exactly how we're going to do it. My phone buzzed with a response to the message I'd sent. Jenny read it over my shoulder, her eyes widening. Message sent to detective.sarah.chen@statepd.gov. I have evidence of corporate espionage and planned murder. Need to set up a sting operation this weekend. Lives depend on it. Response. Can you meet tonight? This sounds urgent. You know a detective? Jenny asked. I know a lot of things now, I said, standing up from the booth, and I know that Ethan Morrison made one crucial mistake. What's that? I smiled grimly, gathering the evidence from the table. He assumed that killing me once would be enough. But as we left the coffee shop, neither of us noticed the black sedan that had been parked across the street, or the figure inside taking photos of our entire meeting. The game was more dangerous than we'd realised, and we were about to discover that some family businesses will do anything to protect their secrets. Detective Sarah Chen was nothing like I expected. Instead of the grizzled veteran I'd imagined, she was a sharp-eyed woman in her 30s with an intensity that made me feel like she could see straight through to my soul. She spread our evidence across the conference table in the police station, her expression growing darker with each document she examined. "This is bigger than corporate espionage," she said finally, looking up at Jenny and me. "Morrison Technologies has been on our radar for 2 years. We've suspected them of industrial sabotage, but we could never prove it." "What kind of sabotage?" I asked, though part of me already knew the answer would terrify me. Chen pulled out a thick file folder. 3 accidental deaths in the past 18 months. All employees of tech companies that Morrison later acquired at below-market prices. All ruled accidents, but... She opened the folder, revealing accident scene photos that made my stomach lurch. "The patterns are too similar to ignore." The first photo showed a car wrapped around a tree on a mountain road. The second, a hiking accident where someone had fallen off a cliff. The third made me grab Jenny's hand. Another car accident, this one involving 2 vehicles on a rainy highway. "That's how I died," I whispered, then caught myself. "I mean, that's exactly like the nightmare I've been having." Chen's eyes narrowed. "Nightmare? I keep dreaming about dying in a car accident. 2 trucks, rain, exactly like this photo." I pointed to the third image. What if it wasn't a dream? What if somehow I survived, and that's why I know what Ethan is planning? It was a weak cover story, but Chen seemed to accept it. Trauma can manifest in strange ways. The important thing is that your instincts led you here. She closed the file. "Now, about this weekend trap you want to set up." For the next 2 hours, we planned every detail. Chen would have undercover officers positioned along the mountain route. We'd all wear hidden cameras and GPS trackers. The goal was to get Ethan to incriminate himself on tape while ensuring our safety. "There's just one problem," Chen said as we wrapped up. "If Marcus Morrison is as connected as you suspect, word of this operation could leak. We need to assume they'll know we're coming." "Then what do we do?" Jenny asked. Chen smiled grimly. "We give them what they expect to see while planning for what they don't expect." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about those accident photos, about the victims who never got a second chance like I did. Around 2 a.m, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Stop digging or you'll end up like the others. This is your only warning." I screenshot the message and immediately forwarded it to Chen. Her response came within minutes. "They're getting desperate. Stay alert. We're moving the operation up to tomorrow." The next morning, Jenny and I met at my apartment to prepare for what could be our last day alive. As she helped me test the hidden camera Chen had given us, she suddenly grabbed my arm. "There's something I never told you," she said, her voice shaking, "about why I started dating Ethan in the first place." My blood chilled. "What do you mean?" "He didn't ask me out randomly. He sought me out specifically because I was your sister." She started crying. "I found old photos on his phone, pictures of you from college, from work events. He's been watching you for years." "Years?" The room seemed to spin around me. "How long?" "I think since you graduated, maybe longer." She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots she'd taken. "Look at this." The photos were disturbing in their intimacy. Me walking to my car, me at the grocery store, me jogging in the park. Someone had been stalking me for years without my knowledge. "There's more," Jenny continued. "I found a notebook in his apartment. Pages and pages of notes about your routines, your habits, your weaknesses. He knows everything about you. Show me. She pulled out her phone and scrolled to photos of handwritten pages. My blood turned to ice as I read. Target shows consistent patterns. Leaves office between 9-10 p.m. on project deadlines. Takes Highway 101 route home. No defensive driving training. Trusts colleagues completely. Major vulnerability. Sister relationship strong, but strained due to work stress. Could be leveraged. Recommend establishing romantic connection with sister to gain insider access. Target has no awareness of surveillance. Ready for Phase 1 implementation. Phase 1, I whispered. The presentation theft was just the beginning. My phone rang, making us both jump. Ethan's name flashed on the screen. Answer it, Jenny whispered. Act normal. I put the phone on speaker. Hey, Ethan. Hey there. His voice was sickeningly cheerful. Ready for our mountain adventure today? I've got the perfect route planned. Actually, I said, following the script Chen and I had prepared, I was thinking we could invite a few more people. Make it a real group outing. The silence on the other end stretched too long. Oh, I was hoping it could just be us three. You know, like old times. Like old times when, I asked, testing him. Another pause. You know what I mean. Anyway, I'll pick you both up at noon. Dress warmly, it gets cold up in the mountains. After he hung up, Jenny and I stared at each other. He's definitely planning something, she said. Good, I replied, checking my hidden camera one more time. So, are we... At 11:45 a.m., we positioned ourselves by the window to watch for Ethan's arrival. Instead of his usual sedan, a black SUV pulled up, the same type of vehicle I'd seen in Chen's accident photos. That's not his car, Jenny said nervously. No, it's not. I texted Chen. Vehicle change, black SUV, license plate. I squinted at the plate, but it was obscured by mud. License plate, deliberately obscured. Her response was immediate. We see it. Team is in position. Remember, get him talking. Ethan knocked on the door with his usual confident smile. But I could see something different in his eyes. Something cold and calculating that I'd missed before. Ladies, he said, offering his arms, ready for an adventure? As we walked toward the SUV, I noticed the back seat had been modified. The door handles were missing from the inside. Nice car, I said casually. Is it new? Borrowed from a friend, Ethan replied, opening the passenger door for me. He said it's perfect for mountain driving. The drive started normally, with Ethan chatting about work and asking about our weekend plans. But as we left the main highway and started climbing into the mountains, his demeanour began to change. You know, he said, glancing at me in the rearview mirror, I've always admired how smart you are. Maybe too smart for your own good. What do you mean? I asked, my hand instinctively moving to the panic button Chen had given me. I mean, some people don't know when to stop digging. Some people can't just accept that they've lost and move on. Jenny caught my eye and nodded slightly. It was time to spring our trap. Lost what? I asked innocently. The presentation. That's ancient history now. Ethan laughed, but there was no humour in it. The presentation was nothing. A test run. You have no idea what you've really lost. Enlighten me. He took a sharp turn onto a narrow mountain road. You've lost the game before you even knew you were playing. You see, some of us have been planning this for a very long time. Years, in fact. Planning what? Your removal from the equation. He glanced back at me again, and this time his mask had completely slipped. The friendly, manipulative Ethan was gone, replaced by something much more dangerous. You were always going to die. The only question was when and how. My blood turned to ice, but I forced myself to keep him talking. Why? What did I ever do to you? It's not what you did, it's what you represented, a threat to our family's business interests. He turned onto an even narrower road that hugged the edge of a steep cliff. My father identified you as a problem 3 years ago. Your innovative thinking, your potential to disrupt our carefully laid plans. Your father? Marcus Morrison. Though I suppose you figured that out by now. He smiled at our shocked expressions. Oh, yes, I know about your little investigation. I know about your meeting with Detective Chen. I know about the wire you're both wearing right now. My heart stopped. How could he possibly know about that? You see, girls, when you've been in the corporate espionage business as long as we have, you learn to prepare for every contingency, including having people inside the police department. Jenny grabbed my hand as the horrible truth sank in. Detective Chen? Works for us, has for 2 years. Ethan took another sharp turn, and I could see we were approaching a section of road with no guardrails. She's been feeding us information about ongoing investigations, including yours. I fumbled for the panic button, but Ethan was watching me in the mirror. Oh, that won't work up here. No cell coverage. And even if there was, the cavalry isn't coming. They think you're safely back in town, having cancelled the operation due to new evidence. What new evidence? I demanded. Evidence that you and Jenny have been embezzling money from the company. Evidence that you killed yourself rather than face prosecution. Very sad story, really. The SUV slowed as we approached a sharp curve with a steep drop-off. This was it. The moment I died in my previous life, except this time I wouldn't be alone. But as Ethan prepared to accelerate toward the cliff edge, something unexpected happened. Jenny suddenly lunged forward and grabbed the steering wheel. Now! She shouted. That's when I realized the truth that would change everything. Jenny hadn't been the victim in this story at all. She'd been playing a game within a game, and Ethan had just walked into a trap that was 3 moves ahead of anything he'd planned. The SUV swerved wildly as Jenny and Ethan fought for control, but through the chaos I heard the most beautiful sound in the world. Helicopter blades approaching fast. Because Detective Chen hadn't betrayed us at all. We'd fed Ethan exactly the information we wanted him to have, and he'd just confessed to multiple murders on a recording that was being broadcast live to every law enforcement agency in the state. But in that moment of triumph, as the helicopter closed in and Ethan's face twisted with rage and desperation, I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. He wasn't just angry about being caught. He was smiling, like this was all going exactly according to plan. Ethan's smile in that moment of chaos told me everything I needed to know. We were still playing his game, even when we thought we'd won. The helicopter circled overhead as Jenny and Ethan wrestled for control of the steering wheel. But instead of panicking, he started laughing. Actually laughing as our SUV careened toward the cliff edge. You think you're so smart, he shouted over the rotor noise, but you have no idea what's really happening. That's when I noticed something that made my blood freeze. The helicopter above us wasn't police. It was black, unmarked, and instead of rescue equipment, I could see the glint of a sniper rifle through the open door. Jenny, get down, I screamed, diving toward the floor, just as the first shot shattered the rear window. The SUV spun out of control, tires screaming against asphalt as we skidded toward the guardrail. But in that split second before impact, Ethan did something that defied all logic. He yanked the wheel hard left, sending us sliding away from the cliff and into a ditch instead. He'd saved our lives. Why? The SUV came to a jarring stop, steam rising from the crushed hood. Through the spider-webbed windshield, I saw the helicopter landing on the road above us. 3 figures in tactical gear emerged, moving with military precision toward our wreck. Stay down, Ethan whispered, his entire demeanor changed. Gone was the smug manipulator from moments before. Now he looked genuinely terrified. They're not here to rescue anyone. What are you talking about? Jenny demanded, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. My father's cleanup crew, Ethan said, fumbling with something in his jacket. I was supposed to make this look like an accident, but you two complicated things with your police operation. Now they're here to eliminate all the witnesses." "Including you?" I asked, not understanding. "Especially me." He pulled out a small device that looked like a GPS tracker. "I've been recording everything for the past 6 months. Every order from my father, every murder they made me commit, every detail of their operation." He handed me the device, his hands shaking. "I never wanted to be a killer. I just wanted to make my father proud. But when I realized what they were really doing," his voice broke. "The Seattle incident? That was my girlfriend. They made me kill her because she found out about Morrison Tech's real business." The tactical team was getting closer, their boots crunching on gravel as they approached the overturned SUV. Through the cracked side window, I could see them spreading out to surround us. "Why should we believe you?" I hissed. "Because Detective Chen is dead," he whispered back. "They killed her an hour ago when they realized she was actually working against them. The woman you met yesterday? That was my father's operative, feeding you false information to lure you into this trap." My world tilted. "That's impossible. She knew things only the real detective would know." "They've been planning this for months. They killed the real Chen weeks ago and replaced her with one of their agents. Every detail of your sting operation was designed to get you isolated up here, where they could clean up loose ends permanently." A voice called out from above us. "Ethan Morrison, exit the vehicle with your hands visible. You have 30 seconds before we use explosives." "Listen to me," Ethan said urgently, pressing the recording device into my hands. "There's a maintenance tunnel. About 50 yards down the slope, it leads to an old mining operation. If you can reach it, you can get to the other side of the mountain where there was cell coverage." "What about you?" Jenny asked. "I'm done running." He pulled a gun from his jacket, not to threaten us, but to check the ammunition. "I've been my father's puppet for too long. Time to cut the strings." The tactical team was moving closer. I could hear their radio chatter. "Primary targets confirmed, preparing for extraction and disposal." "Go," Ethan said, kicking out the back window. "When I start shooting, run for that cluster of rocks. The tunnel entrance is hidden behind them." "This could be another trap," I said, clutching the recording device. "Maybe," he admitted. "But what choice do you have? Stay here and die for certain, or trust the man who's been trying to kill you for the past year?" It was insane, but he was right. We had no other options. "Why are you helping us?" I asked one final time. His expression softened, and for a moment I saw past the manipulator to the broken man underneath. "Because killing you in that car accident was supposed to be my final test. But when I watched you die, saw the look in your eyes," he shook his head, "I couldn't live with what I'd become. When my father ordered me to do it again, I decided to record everything instead." 20 seconds, the voice from above called out. "On 3, Ethan said, positioning himself by the passenger door. 1, 2. He burst out shooting, and Jenny and I scrambled through the back window, sliding down the rocky slope as gunfire erupted above us. I could hear Ethan shouting something about surrender, but his voice was drowned out by automatic weapons fire. We reached the rocks just as an explosion rocked the mountainside. The SUV had erupted in flames, and through the smoke, I couldn't see any sign of Ethan. "The tunnel!" Jenny gasped, pointing to a narrow opening behind the largest boulder. We squeezed through into darkness, using our phone flashlights to navigate the cramped passage. The tunnel was longer than Ethan had indicated, stretching deep into the mountain. After what felt like hours of crawling, we finally emerged on the far side of the ridge. My phone showed 2 bars of signal. With shaking hands, I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? "This is Jennifer Walsh. I'm calling to report multiple murders and a corporate conspiracy involving Morrison Technologies." 6 months later, I stood on the stage of the National Technology Innovation Awards, holding the trophy that should have been mine from the beginning. The algorithm that Ethan had tried to steal was now revolutionizing data processing across multiple industries, and I was finally getting the recognition I deserved. But as I looked out at the audience, scanning the faces of industry leaders and tech innovators, my blood ran cold. There, in the back row, sat a familiar figure. Ethan Morrison was alive. He was different, scarred, wearing dark glasses, his hair a different colour, but it was unmistakably him, and he was smiling that same chilling smile from the SUV. As our eyes met across the crowded auditorium, he raised his hand in a slow, deliberate clap. Then he mouthed 2 words that made my knees weak. "Thank you." After the ceremony, I found a note tucked under my windshield wiper. "The recording device you thought contained evidence of my crimes. It was actually a sophisticated tracking and surveillance system. For the past 6 months, I've been monitoring every move you've made, every person you've talked to, every detail of your new life. You see, my father's death in that mountain explosion was unfortunate, but it cleared the way for me to take over Morrison Technologies completely. And thanks to the data I've gathered from watching you, I now know exactly how to replicate your success with every other innovative mind in the industry. The presentation was never the end game. It was market research. I needed to understand how brilliant minds work, how they create, how they think, and you've been my perfect test subject. Phase 3 begins now. Thank you for teaching me everything I need to know about being a predator who hides in plain sight. The student has finally surpassed the teacher. P.S. Jenny sends her regards. Did you really think she turned against me? She's been reporting your every move since the day you recruited her. Some sisters will do anything for the right price. See you soon, your devoted student." I looked up from the note, my hands shaking, to see Jenny walking toward me across the parking lot. But her smile wasn't the relieved expression of a sister who'd survived trauma together. It was the cold, calculating smile of someone who'd been playing a much longer game than I'd ever imagined. "Hello, sis," she said, pulling out her phone. "Ethan's been waiting for you to figure it out." As she dialed, I realised the horrible truth. I hadn't been given a second chance at life to get revenge. I'd been given a second chance to become the perfect victim. The game was never about the presentation or the company or even the murders. It was about creating the perfect blueprint for destroying innovative minds, and I had just helped them write the manual. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Round 2 begins tomorrow. This time you won't see it coming until it's too late. Welcome to the real game." Standing in that parking lot, holding my award while my sister smiled at me with a stranger's eyes, I finally understood what Ethan had meant when he thanked me. I hadn't won anything. I had just taught a monster how to be unstoppable. And somewhere in the darkness, he was preparing to use everything I'd shown him against the next brilliant mind who thought they could outsmart the system. The worst part, I was going to have to watch it happen, knowing that every future victim's blood would be on my hands. Because in the end, the house always wins, and I had just shown them how to build a bigger house.